I planned my wedding to my fiancé for 7 months. I was so sure that I wanted to marry him that there was no room for cold feet for me. He was the one I was choosing to marry, and I didn't care about anything else. I felt so sure about loving him and being together forever. Before our wedding, we each had parties with our friends. My party was incredible. The night before, I had an awesome time with my girls. My best friend is a guy, and I know some people don't get it, but he's just a close friend. We've never been romantic. I see him as my brother, a brother that I didn't have. Just before I reached the church on my wedding day, he called me and told me that there was something he had to tell me. I wondered what it was so urgent that he couldn't wait until after the wedding, but he insisted that he had to speak to me first. I told him to meet me around the corner just before we got to the church. He showed me the pictures of my boyfriend cheating. Apparently, they went out the night before for his bachelor party, and he was having a lot of fun with a lot of girls. My best friend said that his conscience wouldn't let him be if he didn't let me know what I was getting into. He overheard my fiancé saying he didn't believe in being with just one person. Even though he cared for me, he planned to have other relationships. My best friend felt really sorry but thought I needed to know the truth before making such a big decision. It was hard for me because I was about to marry him. All the guests were there, including my parents, who had come such a long way for the wedding ceremony. Was I going to call off the wedding and disappoint everyone? I wasn't sure what to do, and I had very little time to choose. I asked my best friend what I should do, but he said it was my decision to make, and he couldn't do it for me. He wanted to make sure I knew the truth. He promised to back me up no matter what, but the decision had to be mine. I chose to go to the church. As I walked down the aisle, I asked my fiancé how his night had been and what he did. He casually replied that it was good and he had a great time. I asked him if he did anything I should know about before we got married, and he said nothing at all, that he was a good boy. As always, it was then I realized that I didn't want to marry him. I believe in monogamy and wanted my husband to be the same as myself. I didn't want him to cheat. If we hadn't gotten married yet and he was already cheating and saying that he would continue cheating, there was no hope. My fiancé, I made the decision himself with the responses he gave me with tears in my eyes. I told everybody that I was sorry for making them come all the way, but there wouldn't be any wedding. Many people wanted an explanation, so I showed them the evidence. My best friend handed me the pictures showing him with other girls. I shared everything about his belief in non-monogamy and his plans for affairs even after marriage. I made it clear that I couldn't accept that and it was a deal breaker for me. Though I loved him, I knew my love alone couldn't sustain our relationship. I rushed to leave and people came after me to make sure that I was okay. I wasn't in the mood to speak to anyone, so I hid somewhere until I was sure they wouldn't see me. I desperately wanted time to myself, but my fiancé's boss found me. He was charming and told me that he wouldn't give me up for anything if he was my fiancé. He asked me to get married to him instead. He mentioned that he had always liked me but stopped sending me signals when he noticed that my relationship with my fiancé was serious. I had noticed when he flirted with me a few times we met. I thought he was attractive, but I didn't let any other thoughts dwell because I was committed to my fiancé. I saw this wealthy and charming man at an event organized by my fiancé's company. He seemed perfect in every way. Despite knowing my fiancé wasn't the brightest, I agreed to marry him out of sheer spite. It was a rash decision, and I'm not sure what prompted me to do that. Acting on impulse like that gave me a bit of an adrenaline rush, and at that moment I dragged his boss back to the church with me and announced that I was engaged to his boss. We were going to get married soon. Everybody thought I was crazy. Well, I don't blame them because I was actually crazy. They tried to make me calm down and think through what I was doing and what I said. But I let them know that I knew exactly what I was doing. Everyone in my family was disappointed in my fiancé. Even his parents were. My fiancé wasn't there when I came back, but my best friend told me that everyone pounced on him, telling him how horrible he was. A lot of them gave him a piece of their mind, and I think that he would have a lot to think about for the rest of his life. He kept calling me, but I didn't want to speak to him. I didn't even want to see him ever for the rest of my life. I had nothing to say to him. He had done his worst. The best part was that I couldn't feel the pain at that time. I had a surge of adrenaline, thinking of what I had just done, getting engaged to his boss. I knew that the pain would come rushing down on me once I calmed down. I was going to marry someone I didn't know so well and had never dated. It's funny that at that time, it sounds exciting. His boss kept asking me if I was okay and needed anything because I was with him. I left the church with him. He put in a lot of effort to cheer me up and distract me from what had happened earlier. Our conversation was wonderful, and I saw a whole new side of him that I hadn't seen before. He was genuinely nice, and I started thinking that maybe marrying him wasn't such a terrible idea after all, especially considering I had already agreed to it. I intended to keep my word if he was okay. We talked until very late and he dropped me at home. I still live with my parents, so they were still up when I got home. Everybody rushed to me trying to speak at the same time. I could tell that they were very worried about me. I assured them that I was okay. Plus I didn't look sad or look like I had been crying. I guess I lied to them because as I got into my room, the tears came rushing down and everything hit me. I was still in my wedding dress and I felt like tearing it to pieces. I was supposed to be going on my honeymoon to move into my new home when we came back. It was like a movie playing in my head, recalling everything that happened that day. When I reached the moment I agreed to marry his boss, it hit me hard. I couldn't believe I had made such a decision. I cried like I had never cried before, so much so that my family heard me and rushed to my door to comfort me. It's a good thing it was luck because I didn't want to see anyone. My fiancé and I dated for about 3 years and he took everything from me. It's been 2 weeks since the incident and I have kept in touch with my ex's boss husband. And you could say he has been nothing but amazing to me. He didn't bring up any relationship or marriage talk, which was a relief. A few moments ago, my ex called me and I just wanted to answer. For some reason, I had been ignoring his calls since the wedding. He was shocked that I answered. He was expecting it to go to voicemail like the other ones. He apologized and I told him to save it. I didn't need an apology because he could have just done the right thing. He said that he didn't mean to be rude, but he wanted to ask me for a favor. He said that if I ever had any feelings for him, I should plead with his boss to give him back his job. I didn't know that he was fired and I had no hand in it. It really hit me hard when he had the nerve to ask me for a favor. I was so upset that he lost his job and honestly, I wished he'd never find another one. He lost me and his job all because of his stupidity. He deserves it, doesn't he? I couldn't understand why he thought I'd help him or why I should even care about his job loss or if anything happened to him. He just showed me how selfish and self-centered he is. I'm glad that I didn't marry him because I would have been miserable. I fought through some scenarios and I realized that I was blinded by love. He was not the right person for me at all. And there were so many things wrong with our relationship. He tended to cheat, and those red flags were everywhere, but I ignored them because I was in love. I'm grateful to my best friend for showing me the pictures and videos because if I hadn't seen them I would have been married to the worst person for me. I would have been leaving a sad and disappointed married life with somebody I thought I loved and you seem to have dodged a bullet. So congratulations are in order. Your ex doesn't deserve you. I know that you will find the love of your life, which may just be his boss. And to your fiancé, he betrayed you and still asks for a favor. I thought he would be remorseful and ashamed. Please block him. I think that's what you should do. Next story. I, 31, female, and my husband, 33, are child-free. We also work from home on a regular basis, and both our jobs involve doing a lot of meetings and talking. We have a 3-bedroom house where one of the rooms is used as a guest room while another is made as an office. When both my husband and I have work meetings together, we usually switch to different rooms. Our house is set up in a way that the bedrooms are upstairs, and downstairs is where we have the kitchen, dining area, and living room. Something unexpected happened when my sister-in-law, who had some home repairs going on, planned to stay elsewhere. Unfortunately, her arrangements got messed up, leaving her with nowhere to stay during the day. That's when she reached out and asked if she could spend her time at our place while the repairs were being done, with her kids, 10-year-old girl, and the 6-year-old boy. I think that school is currently closed due to COVID outbreak, but I'm not sure. Me and my husband explained that both of us work from home most of the time, and we will not be able to take time off to watch her or her kids. She promised they would behave. Yesterday my husband was asked to come to the office, so I was alone with my sister-in-law and her kids. It was our first day out of 2 weeks of repairs. I was getting ready for my meeting when I heard a screeching sound. I initially thought that the kids were watching TV and might have turned it on too loud, so I asked them to turn it down and started the meeting. The meeting I was in became awkward due to an ongoing noise that was heard by everyone attending. I attempted to switch rooms to get away from it, but the noise persisted, disrupting the meeting. I had to excuse myself and head downstairs to figure out what was causing the disturbance. It turned out that my youngest sister-in-law was throwing a tantrum, causing the commotion, and she seemed unwilling to do anything about it. I have politely asked if she can calm down her child, as the noises he makes make me uncomfortable and interfere with my job. She says, okay, and I go back to my home office, hoping to rejoin the meeting. However, the sound didn't stop, and in fact it became worse. The kid has started banging on the floor. I come down again and tell my sister-in-law that she should parent her child and stop this behavior as I'm trying to work, or they have to leave. She was trying to get into an argument, but I said I had enough and she has to leave now, and is no longer welcome to stay for the 14 days she originally planned. When my husband returned, he agreed with me. However, we have already received calls from his parents calling me an asshole for kicking them out after I gave my sister-in-law plenty of time to calm down the kids and she could take him outside to the garden or the car. She opted not to intervene, despite the situation. Contrary to what my sister-in-law claimed, the child wasn't autistic or facing any issues. The tantrum erupted simply because we wouldn't allow the child to play on our console. We don't have any games suitable for his age, and he has a history of breaking things. The game he wanted to play was an adult horror game, which obviously wasn't suitable for his age. To clarify the above and reworded it, sister-in-law claims the kid is not autistic or has any mental health issues or issues that can cause such behavior in no way or form. I have intended it to sound as if the kid has autism, and I don't believe the sister-in-law has. And also that house is available to stay at. Only one room is being renovated. Their bedrooms, bathroom, and kitchen are still available to use. She just wanted to stay with someone else during the daytime as she's not fond of the buildings and doesn't like the noise they make. As the builders are there from about 9 to 6 after she has no issues returning home and staying there. Seems like we've figured out why those other plans fell apart. Your sister-in-law might be really used to handling her rowdy kid, so she didn't even react to the racket. Maybe she thought letting the child have a moment to calm down during the tantrum wasn't a bad idea. But here's the thing. When guests are at someone's place and folks are working, keeping the noise down is the main goal. It's all about balancing things right. Next story. I, 34, female, am a private tutor. My neighbor is 41, female, requested that I tutor her 2 children, an 11-year-old girl and a 13-year-old girl, in mathematics and science. Their grades have gone up to straight A's, with the younger even scoring perfect 100%. Has requested a huge discount. As we were on good terms, I am listed as a girl's guardian with the agreement that sessions would be thrice a week. My usual rate for one-to-one tutoring starts at $40 an hour, and for her girls' levels, their individual rates would have been $1.50 an hour and $1.55 an hour, or $1.75 in alpha, both girls together. However, S kept telling me about all her financial burdens, and I lowered the rate to $1.44 an hour. Both of the girls and I had settled on 3 sessions per week. I was clear from the start that weekends were my time for my dogs, and only urgent tuition requests were accepted then, with a higher rate starting at $1.60 an hour. But last week, S approached me saying her older girl was struggling in English and needed a temporary weekend slot at our regular rate. I didn't want to be calculative, so I accepted. After the first weekend lesson, she texted me to say that the girl suddenly had after-school activities and would have to drop one of that weekday slots. I agreed, because these things do happen sometimes. After the second weekend lesson, she texted me again to tell me that she would only need tutoring on one weekday and one weekend from now on, since she had signed her girls up for enrichment classes on another weekday when we were supposed to have a tutoring session. She seemed to expect the weekend sought to be a permanent arrangement. I was taken aback because I felt like I had been forced to give up my weekend for a lower rate than normal. I tried to ask if it would be possible for her to change the enrichment classes to weekend, but she texted me a short no. After consideration, I decided to put my foot down and I texted her this. I want to be honest, I'm not entirely satisfied with this change. Initially, I agreed to the weekend slot because I thought your daughter urgently needed help in English as she was failing. Now, reducing the number of sessions feels like the urgency wasn't as pressing as I was led to believe. My weekend is for bonding activities with my dogs or urgent assignments only, which are supposed to be temporary arrangements. I hope you can understand my part. She replied with, "Fine, then don't come." 2 days later, she texted me that she no longer wanted me to talk to her girls. She also unfriended me across all her social media after. Was I too rude in my text? Just a few days ago, I was still dropping by with breakfast for their family, and now the girls dare not even talk to me when I run into them. The younger one told me that S was really pissed off at me, but the elder shushed her, and I'd also be asking to be removed as the girl's guardian. She's clearly taking advantage of you and doesn't like to be stood up to. If her daughter was really failing, she'd be dropping all social activities and after-school activities for that child and focusing on getting them a consistent routine until everything was back on track. You have a right to your weekends, and she doesn't have a right to expect you to drop everything for her and constantly do favors for her. And 2. She was taking advantage. Your text was reasonable given the prior arrangements. Her childish response tells you all you need to know about the quality of this friendship.